How dare you call me? Anyways, like, my eyes just, like, look perma red. I also have to pee really bad. Okay. After this one, we're gonna take a piss. Okay. Ooh. No, thank you, said Professor McGonagall coldly, as though she didn't think this was the moment for lemon drops. As I say, even if you know who has gone, my dear professor, surely a sensible person like yourself can call him by his name. All this you-know-who nonsense. For 11 years, I have been trying to persuade people to call him by his proper name, Voldemort. Professor McGonagall flinched, but Dumbledore, who was unsticking two lemon drops, seemed to not notice. It all gets so frustrating if we keep saying you know who. I have never seen any reason to be frightened of saying Voldemort's name. I know you haven't, said Professor McGonagall, sounding half exasperated, half admiring. But you're different. Everyone knows you're the only one you know who, all right, Voldemort was frightened of. You flatter me, Dumbledore said calmly. Voldemort had powers I will never have, only because you're too, well, noble to use them. It's lucky it's dark. I haven't blushed so much since Madame Pomfrey told me she liked my new earmuffs. Professor McGonagall shot a sharp look at Dumbledore and said, "The owls are nothing next to the rumors that are flying. Oh my God. The owls are nothing next to the rumors that are flying around. You know what everyone is saying about why he disappeared, about what finally stopped him." It seemed Professor McGonagall had reached the point she was most anxious to discuss, the real reason she had been waiting on a cold, hard wall all day. For neither as a cat nor a woman had she fixed Dumbledore with such a piercing stare as she did now. It was plain that whatever everyone was saying, she was not going to believe it until Dumbledore told her it was true. Dumbledore, however, was choosing another lemon drop and did not answer. What they're saying, she pressed on, is that last night Voldemort turned up in Godric's Hollow. He went to find Potters. The rumor is that Lily and James Potter are they dead? Dumbledore bowed his face. Professor McGonagall gasped. Lily and James? I can't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. Oh, Albus. Dumbledore reached out and patted her on the shoulder. I know, he said heavily. Professor McGonagall's voice trembled as she went on. That's not all. They're saying he tried to kill the Potter's son, Harry. They said he tried to kill the Potter's son, Harry. But he couldn't. He couldn't kill that little boy. No one knows why or how, but they're saying when he couldn't kill Harry Potter, Voldemort's power somehow broke, and that's why he's gone. Dumbledore nodded glumly. It's true. It's true? Faltered Professor McGonagall. After all he's done, all the people he's killed, he couldn't kill a little boy? It's just astounding. Of all the things to stop him, but how the name on heaven did Harry survive? We can only guess. We may never know. Professor McGonagall pulled out a lace handkerchief and dabbed her eyes beneath her spectacles. Dumbledore gave a great sniff and took as he looked at his golden watch on his pocket to examine it. It was a very odd watch. It had 12 hands and no numbers. Instead, little planets were moving around the edge. It must have made sense to Dumbledore, though, because he put it back in his pocket and said, "Hagrid's late. I suppose it was he who told you I'd be here, by the way." "Yes," said Professor McGonagall, "and I don't suppose you're going to tell me why you're here, of all places." "I've come to bring Harry to his aunt and uncle. They're his only family left." You can't mean the people who live here," cried Professor McGonagall, jumping to her feet and pointing to number 4. "Dumbledore, you can't. I've been watching them all day. You can't find two people who are less like us. All they've got is this son. I saw him kicking his mother all the way up the street, screaming for sweets. Harry Potter come and live here? It's the best place for him, Dumbledore said firmly. His aunt and uncle will be able to explain everything to him when he's older. I've written them a letter. A letter, reported Professor McGonagall faintly, sitting back down on the wall. Really, Dumbledore, you think you can explain this all in a letter? These people will never understand him. He'll be famous, a legend. I wouldn't be surprised if today was known as Harry Potter Day in the future. There will be books written about Harry. Even every child in our world will know his name. Exactly, said Dumbledore, looking very serious over the top of his half-moon glasses. It would be enough to turn any boy's head. Famous before he can walk and talk. Famous for famous for something he won't even remember. Can't you see how much better off he'll be growing up away from all that until he's ready to take it? Professor McGonagall opened her mouth, changed her mind, swallowed, and then said, yes, you're right, of course. But how is the little boy getting here, Dumbledore? She eyed his cloak suddenly as though she thought he might be hiding Harry underneath it. Hagrid's bringing him. You think it wise to trust Hagrid with something as important as this? I would trust Hagrid with my life, said Dumbledore. I'm not saying his heart isn't in the right place, said Professor McGonagall grudgingly. But you can't pretend he's not careless. He does tend to... What was that? A low rumbling sound had broken the silence around them. It grew steadily louder as he looked up and down for the streets for some sign of a headlight. It swelled to a roar as they both looked up at the sky. A huge motorcycle fell out of the air and landed on the road in front of them. If the motorcycle was huge, it was nothing compared to the man sitting astride it. He was almost twice as tall as the normal man, at least 5 times as wide. He looked simply too big to be allowed. So wild, long tangled of bushy black hair and beard hid most of his face. He had hands the size of trash lids, and feet in their leather boots were like baby dolphins. In his vast muscular arms was holding a bundle of blankets. Hagrid, Dumbledore said, sounding relieved. At last. And where did you get that motorcycle? Borrowed it. Professor Dumbledore, sir, said the giant, climbing carefully off the motorcycle as he spoke. Young Sirius Black lent it to me. I've got him, sir. No problems were there? No, sir. House was almost destroyed, but I got him out all right before the muggles started swarming around. He fell asleep as we were flying over Bristol. Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall bent forward over the bundle of blankets. Inside, just visible, was a baby boy, fast asleep. Under a tuft of jet black hair over his forehead, they could see a curiously shaped cut like a bolt of lightning. Is that where... whispered Professor McGonagall. Yes, said Dumbledore. He'll have the scar for the rest of his life. Couldn't you do something about it, Dumbledore? Even if I could, I wouldn't. Scars can come in handy. I have one myself above my left knee that is a perfect map of the London Underground. Well, give him here, Hagrid. We'd better get this over with. Dumbledore took Harry in his arms and turned towards the Dursleys' house. Could I say goodbye to him, sir? Asked Hagrid. He bent his great shaggy head over Harry and gave him what must have been a very scratchy, whiskery kiss. Then suddenly, Hagrid let out a howl like a wounded dog. Shh, Professor McGonagall hissed. You might wake up the muggles. Sorry, Hagrid sobbed, taking a large spotted handkerchief and burying his face in it. But I can't stand it. Lily and James dead, and a poor little Harry off to live with muggles. Yes, very sad. But get a grip on yourself, Hagrid. We'll be found, Professor McGonagall whispered, patting Hagrid gingerly on the arm as Dumbledore stepped over the low garden wall and walked to the front door. He laid Harry gently on the doorstep and took out the letter of his cloak, tucked it inside Harry's blanket, and then came to the back door for the other two. For a full minute, these three stood on and looked at the little bundle. Hagrid's shoulders shook. Professor McGonagall blinked furiously, and the twinkling light that usually shone from Dumbledore's eyes seemed to have gone out. Well, said Dumbledore finally, That's that. We've no business staying here. We might as well go and join the celebrations. Yeah, said Hagrid in a muffled voice. It'd best be get this bike away. Good night. Good night, Professor McGonagall. Professor Dumbledore, sir. Wiping his steamy eyes on his jacket sleeve, Hagrid swung himself onto the motorcycle and kicked the engine into life. With a roar, it rose into the air, off into the night. Shall I see you soon, I expect, Professor McGonagall, said Dumbledore, nodding to her. Professor McGonagall blew her nose in reply. Dumbledore turned and walked away back down the street. On the corner, he stopped and took out the silver put-outer and clicked it once, and 12 balls of light sped back to their street lamps so that Privet Drive glowed suddenly orange, and he could make out a tabby cat slinking around the corner to the other end of the street. He could just see the bundle of blankets on the step of number 4. Good luck, Harry, he murmured. He turned on his heels and a swish of his cloak, he was gone. A breeze ruffled the neat hedges of Privet Drive, which lay silent and tidy under the inky sky. The very last place you would have expected astonishing things to happen. Harry Potter rolled over inside his blankets without waking up. One small hand clasped over the letter beside him, and he slept on, not knowing he was special, not knowing he was famous, not knowing he would be woken in a few hours' time by Miss Dursley screaming as she opened the front door to put the milk bottles, nor that he would spend the next few weeks being prodded and pinched by his cousin Dudley. He couldn't know at this very moment. People meeting in secret all over the country were holding their glasses and saying in hushed voices, "Harry Potter, the boy who lived." The Vanishing Glass is the next one, and I think it's kind of funny. I like the next chapter. I don't think you've seen the movies, so I think the next chapter is pretty good, but time to take a piss and, plug my phone in for a few minutes. And then I'll come back out here. I'll make popcorn. Yeah. Oh, I'm lightheaded. Oh, shoot.